bit more. Testing, there we go. All right, how's everybody today? Happy Sunday, good to see everyone. I had a drone accident this week.
Of course. What?
Yeah, I know, what, exactly. You know these little things? My dad had them. I never seen them. They're like these little things, you just toss them and they kind of just fly around. You don't like control it, it just flies around, right? This little like $10 deal. And so he had them and Birch is playing with it and likes it. So I ordered a couple on Amazon, but then I got the XL version, right? You gotta get the better one, you can't get the old one, right? So it's a little bit bigger. I charge it up. I go, Birch, I got you a gift. And I show it to him. I bring it in my living room, just throw it up. The thing goes straight at my face and chops my nose wide open. Just like that. It went up and I think my nose got caught it's got a cage around it so you don't hurt yourself. I think my nose, because there was like 3 little lines. It was stuck there for a second. Chopped my nose. So that's what happened to me.
That's what that mark saw?
That's what the drone accident. So that was fun. Yeah. Now I'm scared of it. I'm literally scared. I don't even like the thing anymore. Let's leave that thing even not charged up, right? I had the opportunity last Sunday to go to my cousin's wedding. I actually was able to marry him. My cousin Mikey's a year younger than me. And it was in Milwaukee, so I went for the weekend. They live outside of Milwaukee, and they did the whole thing on like a boat, one of those boats that like starts on the river and then goes into the lake and then comes back. So there was about 70 of us on this boat, which was fun. And then, what was I gonna say? Oh, Milwaukee was great. I brought my electric skateboard and like did like 10 hours. No, I didn't fall, no accidents, but no, was cruising around Milwaukee. That was awesome. But it was interesting. I had several friends that like I grew up with, or some high school friends, and just interesting being around, say, 20 or 25 people that I used to hang out with. I know pretty well, and for a couple days, and I'm sort of sensing where some of these people are at, and obviously they're all in sort of different places, but one thing I really felt like by the end of the weekend, I felt like a handful of them or a portion of them sort of disqualified themselves out of Christianity. Like because of how they act or, what they drink or don't drink or what they smoke or don't smoke or how the words they use or don't use, they sort of have this idea that they're not the type of person that is like a Christian person or a religious person or somebody that has a relationship with God. And if you've been here, most of us have been here for a little while, like that the forgiveness of the Lord is for all people. It's not just, I think, as I was sort of analyzing, hanging out with some of these people, I felt like there's this idea of that one leader that they grew up under, that like they're not like them. I think the easy way to say it is like a priest or something. It's like, I know we're, not all of us grew up Catholic or whatever, but this idea that the priest is something other, right? They're like different and they're like holy and they never do anything wrong, and they're, this sort of leader that is totally different from norm or our reality. And I think what I sensed in some of these people is like, I'm not going to be like that, so why do I even try to be in a relationship? Like why would I even try to be go to church or be a part associated with anything like that anyways, because I'm not the type of person. I smoke, I drink, and I swear or something, and that means I'm not in or something like that. And it made me so sad. Because like literally the gospel is that they're forgiven if they would accept it. And that the very things they feel like keep them from God are the things he died for. Like the very things that they're like, this is what disconnects me. This is what separates me from God. This is why I can't be in relationship with God, is the very things that he laid down his life for. And I know I talk about this a lot, so I'm not going to like go into it too much, but it made me sort of sad for them. Like this last season, these last years, I just feel like the Lord has so blessed me as I've connected with him and built more of a relationship with him. I just felt like I'm thriving. I just feel like the more I enter in, the better my life is. And to see people outside of that because of like some kind of sin that they are in, it just made me so sad. And for me, like, I'm not a very compassionate person. Like, it actually brought me some compassion to like, I need to have some conversations with some folks. Like, I need to make some phone calls and be like, hey, like, I know this is what you think it is. You have to be like somebody else, or they told you that you can't do this or you can't do that, and but the gospel is that you're forgiven and you're welcome, and like the Lord like wants to be in a relationship with you. And so the word that I kept thinking about is disqualify. I felt like these people, they're like disqualifying themselves out of relationship with God because of the sin. And this isn't just specific to this group of people or any one person. Like this is culture today. Like this is what your neighbor thinks. This is what your friends or your family or people, your coworkers, this is what they think. They think that they're too bad. They think that they're not like Priest Larry, whatever, and they never will be. So why would I even try to be like that? It's almost as if they think that God was like unsuccessful in his whole dying on the cross and paying for sins. And it's easy to talk about other people. Let's talk about us for a second. Like, what in you do you feel like disqualifies you from being in an intimate relationship with the Lord? I feel like it's easy to go, okay, there's something in there that I feel like is too bad. Maybe it's something in the past. Maybe it's something in the present. What do you feel like disqualifies you to be in a close relationship with the Lord? And I have one friend specifically that I feel like he's like swimming in the toilet and trying to convince me it's a swimming pool. Like maybe it's a weird metaphor, but just the picture that comes to mind is like he's just like in this mess of a life, trying to go, yeah, no, we're swimming over here. And it's like, no, it's not good, man. The Lord has something so much better for you, and you've convinced yourself that this life where you're at, this life of brokenness and sin and addiction, it's like this facade of fun and joy, and really when you go a little bit deeper, you realize, oh, they're like in a really bad place. They're like broken and hurting and depressed and sad, and really the opposite of that is like, I think what some of us have been living in, this place of like joy and peace and thriving in relationship with the Lord. See, the thing is, our culture mixes these two up. They mix up freedom and they mix up bondage. When I think bondage, I think anything that would like control you, anything that you're submitting to, any addictions or anything that would sort of control your life in any sort of way, right? And so let's use an example. Like if we talked about, say, alcohol. The world thinks freedom is like go out and get wasted and do whatever you want whenever you want, right? It's the freedom of drinking as much as you want. But when you get one step past that, you realize, oh, they're like hurting. They're like seeking joy in a place where they can't find it. And the reality is, like, it's the opposite of freedom. It's not freedom just to be able to go crazy. And on the other side of that, if you turn it around, you say, somebody that is chosen, I have one buddy that said, I haven't drank for a couple months, and I went out, and all these people are worried, why aren't you drinking? And they think he's in bondage, like somehow he's like unable, he's too religious to like drink a beer or whatever. And in reality, like he's thriving in a place of freedom. And so our culture has mixed these two things up, freedom and bondage. And it's this facade or this lie that the bondage is actually a place of freedom. And so I think it's important for us to think about that in our own life. Like, what are the things that we might be submitting to that aren't really freedom? That we're not really free, and we think we are because like culture gives us this idea that we are. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Thank you. And like Kelly said, it's like not going back to that grave. Those things are so familiar. Those things, it's like a place of comfort sometimes to like go back to the things that we used to be stuck in, those graves, those things of bondage, those addictions. It's like, it's so familiar there and comfortable that it's really hard to go, no, I'm not going to go there anymore. I want to be, and to make steps to be in a place of freedom. So that's my intro. I sent out an email. I asked you guys to read Titus. Anybody read Titus? I saw a couple hands. Hallelujah. Titus. Anybody know who wrote Titus? No. Oh, Paul. I'm glad that was you that said that. I would hate to hate somebody else. Paul did. Paul wrote, right? Pat's like, no, you're wrong. Sorry. I might be.
Gotta be right.
As I understand it, Paul and Timothy started some churches in Crete. Crete is in Greece, like an island off of Greece. It's like, hey, we're gonna go church plant in Hawaii. Anybody want to come? I'm in. Let's go. So they started these churches in Crete, and Paul writes this letter to Titus, saying, like, trying to help him after he's left to sort of set up the organization, sort of set up how this church is going to look in Crete. So we're going to read a couple passages from there. Let's start with Titus 1, 5 through 9. It says this: "This is why I left you in Crete, so that you might put what remained into order and appoint elders in every town as I directed. If anyone is above reproach." Okay, he's creating leaders, elders in sort of these different areas, okay? And then he lists what those people should look like. If anyone is above reproach, the husband of one wife, his children are believers and not open to the charge of debauchery or insubordination. For an overseer as God's steward must be above reproach. He must not be arrogant or quick-tempered or drunkard or violent or greedy for gain, but hospitable, a lover for good, self-controlled, upright, holy, and disciplined. He must hold firm to the trustworthy word as taught, so that he may be able to give instruction in sound doctrine and also rebuke those who contradict it. So this is a description of what Paul thinks is some leadership qualities. Okay, I think it's easy for us to take a verse like this and go, "Here's the Christian thing. You gotta do all those things, else you're not a Christian." That's what all the people I was just talking about think. They think, "Oh, I gotta do all of these things, and there's no way I'm ever going to be disciplined or self-controlled or whatever." Just pick one, right? And they see this list and they go, "I just can't do it. I'm not living up to it, so I'm just going to disqualify myself and just say I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to try. I'm not going to go." But what he's really saying is like, this is a description for leaders, and not necessarily a prescription. I think we need to pay attention to that when we read the Bible, whether something's like a prescription or a description. Prescription being like, here's all the things you're supposed to do. Description being, here's what a leader should look like. But here's what I think. I believe each one of us in the room has an influence in some form or fashion. It might be one person, it might be 100 people, but somebody looks to you, and somebody looks to you as a leader. Somebody looks to you as when they're thinking about how they're supposed to live their life. Somebody's looking to you and trying to pay attention to what you're doing, what you're saying, what you're posting, what your life looks like, and they're taking notes and they're applying it to their life. And I think a good way to look at this passage is to see what is the one thing that stands out in your head. Because that's probably the thing that God's calling you to take a step in. I don't think we have to write a 15, there's tons of stuff in here. I don't think we have to 15 things here and let's every day, okay, I gotta be more disciplined. I got, obviously there's things that we want to step into, but I just think for this week, look at this list and go, God, what would you like me to take a step in? To really pray through one of these, maybe two if you're really, really disciplined, to say, God, what does it mean for me to take a step in this leadership characteristic? See, if we look at this as this huge list and I'm never going to do it, and it just brings you to a place of shame, you're just disconnected from the Lord. You just disqualify yourself and you sort of step away. That slide says disqualify yourself from all the things God has for you. I really believe if we see ourselves as leaders and we see ourselves and understand that we all have influence. Some of us have huge influence in this room. The cumulative influence of the gathering church is pretty big in Northwest Indiana. I know there's 34 of us in this room right now, but the cumulative, what was it? Influence, yes, is pretty big. And to own that and to realize that this list is important not only to Paul, but I would dare say it's important to God as leadership qualities, as things that as we lead those around us, we would think about, what does it mean for me not to be arrogant? How do I be less quick-tempered? How do I become more hospitable? Self-control, upright, holy, disciplined. And my challenge this week is just to take one of those and just go, okay, God, I just need you to help me with this. He continues in Titus chapter 2 with another list. Oh, no. He goes like this. Let's see, Titus chapter 2. But as for you, teach what accords with sound doctrine. Older men are to be sober-minded, dignified, self-controlled, sound in faith and love and in steadfastness. Older women likewise are to be reverent in behavior, not slanderers or slaves to much wine. They are to teach what is good, and so train the young women to love their husbands and children, to be self-controlled, pure, working at home, kind, and submissive to their husbands, that the word of God may not be reviled. Likewise urge the younger men to be self-controlled, to show yourself in all respects to be a model of good works, and in your teaching show integrity, dignity, and sound speech that cannot be condemned, so that an opponent may be put to shame, having nothing evil to say about us. This is talking about mothers and fathers of the church. And I don't think this necessarily has to be about age. I don't think you should disqualify yourself because I'm not old enough. I'm not, 55 or older. I'm not, I just think what this is saying is that as a church and even outside the church, that we would walk with each other and be with each other and help each other understand what it means to live a godly life. That there's some specific things here. It's teach the young men to be self-controlled. Some of those things have to be taught. Some of those things are best modeled by somebody that's walked down that path to somebody that hasn't quite gotten there yet. And I just want to encourage this as a church, like, the way this becomes reality is when you're willing. Like, willing to spend time with people, willing to open up your time, your effort, your energy, to initiate conversations, to send text messages, to say, you know what, I'm available for those who would need to seek some guidance. And, you know, I hear this in some of these churches that I watch, just about the mothers or fathers of faith that are just like, they're just leading people. They're just helping people understand what it means to walk with God. And that really, I mean, it really is something that comes with experience. And I just would love if we would be that place. Because here's the thing, as soon as COVID's over, 3 or 4 years from now, so, there'll be some folks that show up here that like need somebody to walk with them. That need somebody to help them understand what it looks like to walk with God. I like this part in chapter 3 of Titus. They're saying, these things are excellent and profitable for people, and let our people learn to devote themselves to good works, so as to help cases of urgent need and not to be unfruitful. He's saying to be unfruitful with your life. There's a learning about what does it mean for me to care and to devote yourself, to learn to devote yourself to good works. There's a learning process to get yourself to a place where you're devoted to good works. Like, this is a fruitful life. And it specifically talks about urgent needs. And I love that this is where our church is at. Like, we're able and willing to help urgent needs. I think it's a big deal. And we'll continue to be. But there's definitely a learning process for us to say, okay, what does it mean for us to execute that well, to understand who's in need, and to step into those things. And finally, like, he talks about disqualifying yourself. So there's a bunch of lists here, right? And any one of the things you could disqualify yourself and just go, you know what? I'm out. I'm not disciplined. I'm not whatever the thing. Self-control. Just pick one. And it's easier to say, I can't do it. I'm out. I'm weak. I'm not able to do it. I don't know how to do it. I'm never going to live up. Or we realize that literally Jesus uses the weakness. Like, his whole deal is about using the weak. That's why I'm here today. I'm literally like the weakest speaker around, you know? And because his goodness met me in my weakness, I'm able to at least stand up here and hopefully say something that's understandable this morning, right? In our weakness, like, if you feel a little bit short when I'm going through all these lists of different leadership qualities, like, it's all right. It's a good place to be, because literally the Lord uses those things. That's where he's going to meet you. That's where he's going to use you. In this 1 Corinthians passage, I won't read the whole thing, but he's just saying he's chosen the foolish to shame the wise. He's chosen the puny and powerless to shame the high and mighty. He's chosen the lowly and laughable, the nobodies, to shame the somebodies. He's literally, because what he wants to do at the end of the day, what he wants you to be able to say is, I'm horrible at teaching, he allows me to teach. Right? Like, he took my weakness, and because of his goodness and his love, like, he's allowed me to do something meaningful. So I think when it really comes down to it, it's like, will you give what you have? Like, will you give the little that you have to the Lord and submit it before Him? Like, will you give the brokenness? Will you give the lack of discipline, the lack of self-control? Will you give these parts of yourself and just say, Jesus, I'm not what I would hope to be, but instead of disqualifying myself and going to a place where I'm not willing to engage in the things that you have for me, to say, God, what little I have, I give. And like, that's where He'll use us. Like, that's literally where He meets us. That's literally where He takes us from this place of weakness so that He gets all the glory. And finally, is this. Titus 2, 11 through 12 says, "For the grace of God has appeared, bringing salvation for all people, training us to renounce ungodliness and worldly passions, and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in the present age." What he's saying is, the grace of God trains you to live this way. Not the fear of God, not the scare, the one day of judgment of God, but like literally His love and grace, the very forgiveness when you don't deserve it. The grace of God, the kindness and the love of this God changes you and transforms you into something more beautiful. Let's pray. Lord, I just thank you for your grace that does change us. Like your ability to take the broken things and make them meaningful, to take weakness and make it strength. But I ask that this room would be full of people that say, Lord, I'm not where I hope to be, but yet I see that you can take me to a different place, that you can use me, that you can use the brokenness in me, that you can use the weakness for something great, that we would be a people that just submit our lives, resubmit again today, resubmit what we have. Or that you would make us people that are wise and self-controlled and disciplined and holy and upright, that we would be examples of what it looks like to be people in a relationship with you. I pray that for us, that you would take our weakness and change us and transform us, your goodness and your glory and your beauty